Welcome to Embracing Humans. I think I'm going to title this Being Human is Hard Part 2. And forgive me for my earnestness, or not. I think that it is extremely important for us to get some things that humans have been trying to get since the get-go. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the fact that we are not alone. We've never been alone. But the interpretation of human experience has convinced us, many of us, that we are alone. And the evolution of humanity has us moving in the direction of that being untrue. But it's a slow process. Historically, this is a quickening time. This is a quickening time for us to get the truth of who we truly are, how connected we are to the unseen, to the wisdom that is always available to us, but it's inside. It's inside. And though that's, I hear myself, it's almost like apology, almost apologetic that it's inside. And I think that I have that tone and that consciousness is because I know how hard it is. I know how hard it is to go inside. And I know how hard it is to stay there. And I know how hard it is to fully embrace it. And elongate the experience. And make it a longer lasting experience. That when I go inside, that nature of spirit, that nature of wisdom, that nature of the field, the nature of connectivity, of oneness, is there, accessible. And prolong that when I go out into the world, or when a new thought comes in that is based firmly in the foundation of being human. In other words, human thoughts and human interpretation of experience and human living in the 3D, opposite of that spiritual wisdom. So it really is a training. It really is a training, and the whole world, everybody, this is not just one country. This is not just one area of the world. I mean, everybody is going through a process of some sort of figuring out the truth of who we are. One of the main things that has stick-to-itiveness after it's found its firm legs is I'm not alone. I've never been alone. It's impossible for me to be alone. I came from this vast universe of strength, of power, of wisdom, of discernment. That's my father. That's my mother. When Jesus was asked about his family, he said essentially, what family? And those of us who have had to move away from our family of origin to survive, to grow, to expand, to claim the truth of who we are, we couldn't do it while in the family system because it was so dysfunctional and so unwilling to shift and change that we had to remove ourselves from it. And Spirit becomes our Father, Spirit becomes our God. Inside of us, inside of our hearts, and eventually inside our minds. So again, when Jesus talked about, I do what my Father does, that's what he was talking about. He wasn't talking about this male God with a penis in the sky. And he wasn't white. And he wasn't a he. It is the spirit that gives fruition to 3D. It is the consciousness that brings us into the physical. And we are just now getting, barely getting, but again, that quickening, that we are not physical beings. We are a manifestation of the unseen. We are in the seen, the physical world, but we came from the unseen. We came from what Jesus called the Father. And we live from a place that Jesus called the kingdom of God, which is what? Tapped into that power, tapped into that knowledge of I am, living by that wisdom, living by that knowing, living by that uninterrupted and undiluted, never can be minimized, never can be negated. It can never be separated into polarity. It is singular. It is eternal, and it is infinite, and it is within us. When we can claim with power, with strength, with resolute surrender that I am never alone. I've never been alone. I can never be alone. Now we're stepping into true awareness. Now we're stepping into being able to tap into discernment. We'll talk at another time about free will, but what I'll say right now is that we have been clearing away the debris of the programming, the debris, the consciousness of purely going by physical and human consciousness. We've been clearing it away. We've been healing. We've been removing what doesn't work. We've allowed the spotlight of spirit to highlight where we're stuck, where we're sabotaging ourselves, where we're minimizing our lives, where we grasp onto limitations. We've been doing that for years. We read books, we're doing the tapes, we're doing the courses, we're doing the therapy, we're doing the counseling, we're doing the meditation, we're doing it. We are doing it. Oftentimes, though, while we're doing it, we think that we're alone in that. While we're doing it, we think that we're here and other community is out there. And in some ways it's been true, because we've had to separate ourselves so that we can own our truth before it's influenced by others. So that when we go back into community, and this is happening with so many humans right now, it's painful. But when we go back into community, who are we taking into community? Who are we taking there? Are we taking the person who thinks that they are alone and therefore needs to be protective and defensive and watching for the sabotage or the saboteur? Are we taking in, here I am somebody and you need to see that I'm somebody? And are we taking back into the community the debris of our wounds? We're going to come back into community. That's going to happen. That is inevitable. That is inevitable. The tribal communities that have not been taken over by capitalism and other various things, we're going to learn from them if we're wise. We're going to learn how we take care of one another. That's what we're going to do. But who are we taking into that situation? When we come back into community and we know I'm not alone. I've never been alone. It's impossible for me to be alone. When we take that and somebody else comes in, and then somebody else comes in, and then somebody else comes in, and they know from whence they came, they know what they're connected to, they're not easily disrupted. Their nervous system isn't as easily triggered. Somebody in their midst will do something really stupid. And they won't jump on it. They won't judge it. They won't need to remove themselves from it. I'm not a Christian, but I'll tell you one thing. Jesus is my hero because I have an example that I have studied. There are others. There are other masters. And I follow the ones who learned from Jesus. And I follow a few before Jesus. Jesus showed us how to be in community. He showed us how to be in a very dysfunctional situation and hold true. The Father and I are one. Spirit and I are one. And so what you did was really stupid. I mean, it hurt you. It perhaps hurt someone else. Came in my direction, and I'm like, see ya, ain't playing. And how am I going to look at you now? How are your peers going to look at you now? What we're moving toward is putting you in the circle and loving you. What we're moving toward is absolute, no need to forgive because there's nothing to be held against you. Probably talk another time about forgiveness. Forgiveness is only needed when you've held something against someone. Jesus couldn't do that. Spirit cannot do that. Forgiveness is not needed. But it helps on the way to being completely absolved of having any resentment or animosity towards someone. It can be useful. It is not the end all, though. The end all is, I see nothing that you've done wrong. I see that you hurt yourself and you hurt someone else. What can we do to repair that? And what can we do to find out why you did that so that you don't do that to yourself and someone else again? So we have wise people coming together. We have people who are aligned with their truth. They are not carrying the family system with them. They're not carrying the old wounds of lovers gone awry. None of that. Maybe a little bit. But that little bit is contrast to egg us on. We accept it. We accept it. There's a lot of hymns that I can't hear and I can't listen to because they're so how do young people call it? Old. They're old. They're not very useful anymore. They were at a time, but they're not very useful. But there are some that I've heard that remind me of that oneness. Some I listen to that remind me that it's impossible to be alone. There are some that just make me remember that the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. I shall not lack. In fact, I was saying that the other night to myself. It was interesting that came up because I have not heard that in years, nor said it in years. I had thrown the Bible away and Jesus away and Christianity away with the bathwater. And it was very, very useful for me to do so. Because again, that influence is very heavy. It's extremely heavy, especially between the ages of 0 and 7, and you've been trained in that type of teaching. It lodges in deep. So I tossed all of that out, and what returned to me was the power of love and the truth of love and the ability to walk by love on some really hard days. And to do that for me, and I think for most of us, I just want to say, for humans, to not have an outside God, to not look at God as separate, spirit as separate. How could it possibly be separate? And how could you possibly ever be separated from it? It's not possible. The world that we're living in right now is going to make us bump our game up. And things that we thought we knew, and things that we depended on as truth, we're going to have to allow them to be loosened from our grasp. Because there's a deeper truth coming. And there's a deeper love coming. It's in the midst right now. It wants to come into fruition. It wants to be in humans. It wants to live in humans in a way that it's never lived before. Surrender to it. There's a love there that you can't stop. You can't stop it. You can stop from feeling it, though. Until next time, Being Human is Hard, Part 2. We'll see if there's a Part 3. I don't know.